Right. Rolling again, continuing with this conversation. I know the more I make videos, the less views I'm going to get, right? The more I make videos, probably the less views I'm going to get, right? Because of the content and the nature of the things I'm talking about, right? We're talking about subtle racism, right? So, unfortunately, this is not going in the direction that the elites, there's mango hooked up in my teeth, right? Mango string, right? Anyway, this conversation is not going, and my breath stinks, right? So this conversation is not going in the direction that the elites wanted to go, right? I'm not coming here and teaching the things that I was supposed to come here and teach, right? But anyways, I'm teaching the things that I'm supposed to teach, right? So this conversation is about subtle racism, right? And subtle racism and how it manifests in society and what's the cause, what's the root of subtle racism. And subtle racism is the opposite of overt racism, right? Or a different manifestation of racism. Overt racism, meaning open racism, is you openly discriminate by way of action, speaking against another race, against another ethnicity, right? You openly speak out against people by virtue of the way that they look or their skin color and take actions against others by virtue of their skin color, hair texture, all these things, right? That is overt, open racism, subtle racism, right? You have particular thoughts, one, and two, the cause or the root cause of this subtle racism, meaning that racism that takes place under the surface and you don't even recognize it. Most people in the world do not even recognize it taking place. The wiping out of certain races, ethnicities in a very subtle way that people don't even recognize as taking place, right? For example, this would have been manifested in the COVID experiment, right? That is what they wanted to do, wipe away certain ethnicities. Like I said, I've been exposed to certain evils, right? Exposed to hearing conversations regarding certain evils in the world, right? And how these things manifest, root causes of this subtle racism, our belief systems, right? Our belief system, religious systems, spiritual systems, religious systems, right? Spiritual and religious systems responsible for subtle racism, right? Right, so example of this, right? I would have been seen in my life, throughout my life, with many people I was not expected to be seen with or in a relationship with or living with, right? I would have been seen with certain people in relationships or living with people, right, who I would not have been expected to live with, been with, and vice versa. They would not have been expected to live with, be with, in a relationship with me, right? And subtle racism, and I will give you direct, live and direct example of what has happened to me, right? A direct splitting up, right? A direct splitting up of one of my past relationships, right? And a tried experimental arrangement, right, with somebody else who people thought would have been better suited for me by virtue of size, because I was small at the time, size, skin color, right? These things coupled with the experiment that took place on my phone, the phone hacking and the putting of videos on my phone, with where I was exposed to the group or the thinking of the most elite group in society. I was exposed to the thinking of the most elite group in society, right? So these people would have been like, try a different race, right? Try a different race. That's what I was told. Try a different race. And there was this arrangement in which, spiritual arrangement in which I was hooked up, right, with someone who was, quote unquote, better suited for me by virtue of look, skin color, whatever. And this thing happened in a very, very sinister, very, very, very sinister, very extremely sinister way, in ways that I am here trying to understand how this is possible to happen. Again, this was all spiritual in nature. This was all spiritual in nature, a manifestation of all the spiritual activities that's been taking place, right? So the subtle racism is in fact a manifestation of all your religious, spiritual bullshit, right? That is why we don't want to part to play in that anymore, right? The people who know what is going on behind the scenes, right, on all ends, right, not only on one end, on all ends, because that elite group on top there, right, it doesn't consist of one race only, right, is a tight-knitted group right? And there's a bunch of different races and their ethnicities, whatever, right? And they want the world to go in a certain direction, or they want whatever it is, right? But they want the people, peace and bullshit, right? With regard to the group itself, right? So we not on that. I've excluded myself from that group. I don't want to be part of that society, that arrangement. I do not. I exclude myself openly from that arrangement because that is not me, right? And I saw, experience, and still am experiencing the most evil, sinister, right? The most evil and sinister way that thing operated in my life, right? So I don't know if to say that I'm fortunate to have experienced that or unfortunate to have experienced that, but actually knowledge, there's no, I will say there's no negative knowledge. You learn certain things. It's just that it's sad to be on this end of the experience, right? It's a sad and depressing thing to be on this end of the experience, to witness and to experience life so live and direct that it is more real than reality fucking TV, right? So I just had to make that video today in order to carry on with my day activities today, right? That's just the nature of how this thing goes. Take care, everybody.